I do want to have a little bit of a pep talk with you guys. I know that a lot of us have been going through a lot of things. So I'm going to give you guys some grace on homework and working with your triads. But we really need to get serious this next 2 weeks to put our hours of practical practice in. You guys need to turn in at least a minimum of 8 hours of practical, with your triad. So if you have not done at least 8 hours, you need to schedule that in the next couple of weeks. So in order for me to give you your certification, I do have to have you guys have this, and you have to turn in every worksheet of the homework. So I'm going to give you guys an extra 2 weeks after next week's course, next week's class, to turn everything in, because I know there's a lot going on with everyone. So I know things are going on with me and with you guys. So I want to give you guys some grace as well. And I'll let you speak here in a moment, Aaron. So basically those are the instructions for the next 2 weeks. Now next week will be a special class since it is going to be graduation. Can you guys believe that it has gone by so quickly? Oh my goodness. But I think hopefully you guys have learned a lot, and it's going to take you guys to the next level. And we still got one more course to go, and then the bonus course. So next week we're debating. It'll be between 2.5 hours and 3 hours long. So please put it on your calendar, because I'm going to give you guys, each one of you guys, an opportunity to speak. It is graduation, so I want to hear from everyone and see what you guys have gained from the course. And we're going to be creating a feedback sheet for you guys to give us feedback. It's okay. You guys can give us the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that we can improve the next course. We're probably going to take a couple of week break, and then we're going to teach the course again. And, we'll improve on it based on your feedback. So just let us know, what you guys enjoyed best. I've received a lot of feedback that you guys are really enjoying the breakouts and working with your triads. I think, that's very important. So with that being said, I'm going to let Erin, who has her hand up, say a couple of things, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Erin?
First off, good morning. Good morning, and Gabby, it's so good to see your face and hear your voice. And I'm just like stupid happy about that. So yay. Oh my gosh, I've missed you so much, woman. I really have. I just wanted to ask this because it's come up in my triads. I've had triads with it's been so mixed up. 1 week it's these people, 1 week it's another. No one knows that they're in, or they were moved to somewhere else. So I have done many 90-minute triads, and I'm just going to be honest, I'm not really clear on what about that I'm supposed to be sending to you or expressing, other than the fact that I spent 90 minutes once or twice a week on doing a call with someone.
Okay, well, okay, thank you very much. We were just talking about that, Erin. Some people have been sending their videos to me, and I've been reviewing their videos. So are you guys going on Zoom and recording them? I'm sorry if that wasn't made clear, but if okay. You haven't, all I need to know is at the end, I'm going to have like I said, you guys are each going to have a feedback sheet for the people that were in your triad, and you're going to grade them. You're going to give them, a score, I guess. And so I'm going to know from that how you guys did. But some of you have been sending videos. I know Stephanie sent a video, Damari sent a video. So again, this is one of the things we'll clarify in the next course. I apologize for that. Erin.
Okay, so a lot of them were not recorded. Since you are giving us a grace period, then because again, the women that are now in my new triad, I know they haven't done that either. So can we just kind of start over? And I'll still tell you about the other hours I've done, but then we do that so that they also get credit.
Well, it would be really great if you guys could all record at least one so that I can see it and give you guys feedback, okay? And it doesn't have to be very long. Each person could just take 15 minutes to coach. Could be a 15, so if there's 3 of you, it would be, a 45-minute video, okay? Because it'll take me a while to review all of you. So.
All right, thank you. I wanted clarity.
Yeah, the important thing, Erin, is that you guys have done the work and that you're learning. That's the most important thing. That you guys are actually growing, and you have grown during these past few weeks, which I hope you have. Lacey, you have your hand up?
Yes, good morning. I wanted to clarify with the worksheets to make sure that I'm not behind with everybody getting COVID and everything. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And about the triads, Nico and Christina and I have met. I think Nico and I have recorded 2 or 3 of those. So should we just send them over and send in a time log maybe with what we've put in?
Yes, that'd be great. Like I said, you guys will get that sheet at the end where you're going to be able to log all your hours, and everybody will have to, on your triad, will have to sign off. So, you know, I am going by integrity and believing that you guys did the work. So, you know, we have to come from that place of trust.
Okay, so I want to go over just to make sure I have the right papers. The first, I have the homework for my certification, communication workbook day 1, empowering questions, the Portal 6 quantum breakthrough course assignment, reframing in the clear method, and then today's worksheet, listening and coaching.
Correct. Marco didn't have a worksheet, I don't believe.
Okay. Awesome. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes, you're on track. So if anybody's missing any of those, please let me know, because you guys know I haven't been up to my 100%, but I'm working on getting back there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for bringing that up. Marie, you have a question?
I do. I just have a request, and that is that, you know, if after each session there can be something posted in our group that says, this is your homework for, you know, for this session, you know, so that we know exactly what our expectations are. That just posting it in the group would be very, very helpful, because and maybe a one sheet that says, this is all that this is what you should have, so that they don't have to email you or text you or anything. Just if we put it in the group and we just say it's homework, and this is everything, a list of everything that we need to supply to get our certification, it would be great, because I would like to make it as simple and as easy for you and for us, so that it, you know, it just flows really well, because there definitely has been some changes and, you know, things going on, and I just want to, you know, give, you know, credit where credit is due. You've done so much, Gabby, despite all that's been going on, and we are so grateful for everything that's been happening here in this certification class, and just everything. So anything that we can do to make it streamlined and easy, I would like to support you in that, and ask that we make something happen.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Marie. And Marie's going to be working with me to help me create some infrastructure around Coach Talk Cafe. She lives here in the city, so we're going to be working together. I'm excited about that. She's helped a lot of businesses, and she's going to help me. So I need a little bit of help on the infrastructure, and Carol's going to be working with me too. So we're going to get it all figured out, guys. Thank you, Marie. That's a great idea. I made a note of that.
Perhaps we could do that, Gabby, after the last session, since we're going to give them 2 weeks grace. There can be one singular post in the group that says, week 1, this is what you owe us. Week 2, and then put in there a specific day and time zone that you want everything turned in, so that there's no confusion over when it has to be and exactly where it has to go. That's great.
That's great. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Marie. Anyone else before we go ahead and get started? No? Hermana Francisca, it's so good to see you. We've missed your beautiful face and your beautiful smile and spirit. You just came back from a retreat. Would you grace us with a short grounding, spiritual grounding, so we can feel your beautiful energy once again?
Absolutely. Thank you. It's great to be back home. I'm still integrating my spirit into body, into this frequency here. It's been great to be off the grid. So just want to have everybody take a beautiful breath. Close your eyes. And as you fill up your body with your breath, your essence, your peace, your love, your light, see it through every cell of you, releasing anything that no longer serves you, and being open to what you're going to receive today from Yogesh, but your heart is here to receive as we come together in community to serve others. And taking this time to honor you, to see that you're ready enough, that everything is already possible for you, because you're created out of perfection. Take a beautiful breath. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
Thank you. I needed that, Hermana. Thank you. All right. Well, now, without further ado, Yogesh, I'm going to turn the remainder of the time over to you. We are going to have a little bit longer breakout today. We're going to have about a 30-minute breakout because I want everybody to have an opportunity to rotate and trade around. Marco is excused today. He's on vacation. So Hermana Francisca and I are going to take over his team. And Jackie, you'll have to tell us, you'll have to divide us up, Jackie. I'm not sure whose team his is. There's been some changes. I see that because 2 people left the course for different reasons. So we are short two people from the original number. That's why things have had to be rearranged. So thank you for the grace on that. All right, Yogesh.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whichever part of the world you're in. I am so excited for today's class. So I'm just going to get right into it. I want to ask you guys to put in the chat, out of a scale from 1 to 10, where do you think you are at your listening skills? 1 being the least, 10 being the highest. Just put it in the chat. Thank you, Lacey. 7, Katie, 6. Wow, 9.5, 8, 5, 8, 7. Awesome. So now I'm going to share my screen with you, and we are going to watch a speech of one of the world champions of public speaking. And I want you to pay attention to whatever shows up for you as you watch the speech.
Contestant Mohammed Quatani, The Power of Words. The Power of Words, Mohammed Quatani.
What? All you all think smoking kills? Let me tell you something. Do you know that the amount of people dying from diabetes are 3 times as many people dying from smoking? Yet if I pulled a Snicker bar, nobody would say anything. Do you know that the leading cause of lung cancer is not actually a cigarette? It's your DNA. You could smoke for years and nothing will ever happen to you. This whole war against smoking is just to restrict the farming of tobacco. Mr. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I use these arguments, even though I just made them up, with a group of my friends. And the results, 5 of them believed what I said. 2 of them started smoking. Words, when said and articulated in the right way, can change someone's mind. They can alter someone's belief. You have the power to bring someone from the slums of life and make a successful person out of them. Or destroy someone's happiness using only your words. Does that seem a bit too good to be true? A simple choice of word can make a difference between someone accepting or denying your message. You can have a very beautiful thing to say, but say it in the wrong words and phew, it's gone. I have a son who's 4, and he had this bad habit of writing on the walls with crayons. And one evening I walked into his room and he's going at it, just writing and drawing and so on, and I said, hey, 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 hey. Are you stupid? Don't you ever do that again. And guess what happened? He did it again. Nobody likes to be threatened. Nobody likes to be intimidated. His pride would not allow it. He did it again just to spite me. A week later, I walked into his room, and again, he's going at it. And this time, he was even looking at me just. I came down and I said, sweetie, come here. Don't do that. You're a big boy now. And he never did it again. Because his pride wants him to be the big boy. Have you ever wondered why nobody cares about global warming, even though it's a very serious issue? It could kill all of us. Because when you go home and you flip on the TV and you see a scientist trying to talk about global warming, it goes something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see from the graphs here, the statistics for 2014, it shows the water level is rising. This table shows that the monodioxide level on the third ozone layer is in a very alarming position. The message never get across. But most importantly, if you are a person who's a role model, if you're a person who's been admired, anything you say could be believed. Anything you utter could be taken as truth. My friend Nasser, he loved his father, idealized his father. He would do anything to make him happy. But his father was the kind of person who's not easy to impress. And year after year, Nasser tried, and his father was like, yeah. First year in college, Nasser got straight A's. And he thought to himself, this is it. This what will finally make my dad proud. He picked up the phone. He called his dad. Dad, I got straight A's. Are you proud? Please tell me you're proud, Father. Yeah, listen, son, I'll have to call you back. I'm busy. I'm busy was the single sentence that broke the camel's back. And he started drinking, doing drugs, hanging out with the wrong crowd. Nasser, why? Why are you throwing your life away? If the one person in the world that I care about the most doesn't care, then why should I? And one evening I got the phone call. Nasser's in the emergency room. Drug overdose. I rushed to that hospital. I saw him on that bed. And I saw that machine go beep, beep, beep. And I saw doctors try to bring him back to life. Clear! 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 It's clear that a single word could have saved this life. Words have power. Words are power. Words could be your power. You can change a life, inspire a nation, and make this world a beautiful place. Isn't that what we all wanted? Isn't that why we are all in this hall? Your mouth can spit venom, or it can mend a broken soul. Ladies and gentlemen, let that be our goal. Count to sir.
Okay. What showed up for all of you? Any one of you? Any ahas or anything? Aaron, I see you going, wow. Tell us what showed up for you.
Okay, so he definitely employed all of the ways of communicating. He used the words, he used his physicality, that body language, he used the tone of voice, he used the, not just the tone, but the canter, when it goes up, down, slow, fast. He was totally engaging. He came out very, you could see, very confident, very assured. So you automatically, he's right, you're going to believe what he's saying because he exuded that. And then he also made sure to break down any barriers, get you to laugh, get you to feel relatable with him so that you would continue along and listen to everything he had to say. And I can see why he's up there doing a Toastmaster talk. Wow, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Aaron. Anyone else? Let's have one more quick share. Yes, Marie.
Very, very powerful speaker indeed. I got a lot of things from him, that words are powerful, that those who have command of words, or that you honor and respect, you know, their words can manifest into you, and you do them regardless. Not everyone does that, but it's that is truth. That you know, words can alter the mind and the belief. And you know, I love Toastmasters and was in it for a really long time. And I could really see that he had a command of his words, and he was believable, and even asked questions, which was great. That was one thing that I really liked seeing too. During the communication with us. Sorry, my dogs are growling. They're going outside. During his communication, you know, he commanded it by his questions, by his demeanor, and by, you know, his powerful words. It was a really great example.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you, Marie. Yogesh, Jackie has her hand up.
Yeah, Jackie, go ahead.
I can definitely relate to the video because one word that really broke me down. And I just had a new client today, and we have a session. And I told her, don't buy the story, that is not you. And she totally, you know, it changed her. Like, yeah, I literally don't need to buy that story. So it really helps a lot to just have your powerful words to the person. It will change their life.
Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. Now, why I love this speech a lot is, as we were studying communication the last time I was here, you know, words is very powerful. As coaches, we have to be making sure that we communicate very clearly with our clients. And that brings me to the second part of communication, which is listening. And today's lesson is mostly about listening. Now, I'm going to share my screen with you guys one more time, and we'll get right into this. Okay, so the last time we spoke about communication. What is communication? What are the different forms of communication? Verbal, nonverbal. And this speech was basically a perfect example of verbal and nonverbal. If you were noticing the nonverbal cues by Mohammed Katani. We also spoke about written and visual communication, which is not as important right now. And then we spoke about, you know, how a message is sent, how it is received by a coach and our client. And in coaching, communication is a two-way process. It's not a linear process. And these are the styles of effective communication. And we spoke about direct communication last time, about how we have to set expectations with our clients. And then there was powerful questioning, which Carol covered. Today, we'll be covering active listening skills. So as you see this, the art of listening, this picture in itself, I want you to, anyone to unmute themselves and tell me, what is right about this photo from a coaching perspective?
You've got the one at the piano, and then you have the other one who is there, who I am going to assume is there to ask questions, give guidance, and assist the person learning to play piano.
Thank you. Thank you, Erin, for that. So what is listening? What is listening? To listen is to give attention to sound or action. So as we saw in the speech just now, right? And if you see in your worksheet, there's fill in the blanks, you can add the words sound or action. When listening, one is hearing what others are saying and trying to understand not only its meaning, but also what the sender is trying to get across. Now, highly developed listening skills go along with questioning skills as a core requirement of effective coaches. Now, listening is something we all feel we do well, but like any form of skill, it needs to be practiced, developed to get the best from it. A coach who listens attentively in coaching sessions will feel tired at the end of it because of the effort put in. Now, the coach has to listen from the perspective of the learner, their situation, and their view of the world and coaching area. However, as coaches, we get tempted. We get tempted to listen and be present from our perspective and not the learner's. Stephen Covey said it best when he said, most people do not listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to reply. And I'm going to give you a very, very good example of this, what happened to me today. I was telling my wife something and she started coaching me. And I started to get frustrated. And I said something to her that triggered her. I said, are you a coach? And she started on me. And what I realized was that all I wanted was to be heard. I didn't want to be coached. I just wanted her to hear me out. But, you know, till I didn't tell her that, she wouldn't understand. So I said, can you just listen to me and not respond immediately? And she's like, oh, if that's what you wanted, you should have just told me, right? But here's the thing, when it comes to coaching, we have to listen to the verbal and non-verbal cues from our clients. And why is that important? And I just gave you the example of that. Listening is the ability to accurately receive and interpret messages in the communication process. Those two are the key words, guys, receive and interpret. So many years of my marriage life, which is 19 years this Saturday, I took so long to tell my wife, can you just listen? And she was not being able to interpret what I was trying to tell her till today. And you know, what a coincidence. I mean, it's not a coincidence, it showed up today for me, right? But that made me really realize that sometimes we need to be very careful in how we interpret what we're listening to. Listening is key to all effective communication. Without the ability to listen effectively, messages can be easily misunderstood. As a result, communication can break down and the sender of the message can easily become frustrated or irritated, just like I was today. And I have been for so many years. Now, there are distinct levels to listening that a coach needs to be aware of and know where they need to be within this, to not just be listening effectively, but also demonstrating to the learner that they are listening. Different books, different methodologies have different models, but it's more about the principle and the process. Oops. So now we're going to explore the different levels of listening. The first level of listening is ignoring. So what is ignoring? It's not being present physically, mentally, or emotionally. It isn't actually listening at all. And many times we do that, especially with our children, right? We're doing our work on our laptop, on our phone, and our child comes to show us something and we're like, yeah, I'm listening, but we aren't actually listening at all. We're looking at our phone or our laptop. So that's basically ignoring. The second level of listening is conversational. So that's listening from the perspective of what's in it for us. It's building links, connections, gathering basic information. The listener is processing information and thinking of the next question while the other person is speaking. The focus here is, I want to know, I feel the same, or I want to ask. Then there is the cosmetic level of listening, which is social listening, focusing on day-to-day activity. How are you? How was your weekend? The focus is on small talk, not necessarily looking for the meaning behind the words. Now, when you take cosmetic and conversational listening, these are passive listening skills. They're not active. The next two are the active listening skills and are very important. So the active listening skill is increasing more in tune with the speaker, picking out key phrases, words, emotions, listening to the language being used and how they are feeling. He was frustrated. He was angry. He was happy. What we just did now when we were watching Muhammad Khatani's speech was we were active listening. And then finally, there is deep listening. Now, in deep listening, we are tuning in to the body language, the tone, the pitch, and what isn't being said, zoning in and being present with them in their situation, quieting our own thoughts and agendas to make space for theirs. Now, when a coach is listening from the deep perspective, they allow the conversation to go where the learner needs it to without fear. They give encouraging signals to the learner, basically telling them it's okay to carry on. People can get confused between listening and hearing. Hearing is a psychological process. It is passive and physical. Listening is cognitive. It's a cognitive process, active and mental. And that's where deep listening and active listening come in. So I'm just going to stop sharing for a while now. And I want to ask you guys a question, which is also on the worksheet, is out of the 5 levels of listening skills, which level do you think you are at? Anyone? Yes, Lacey, go ahead.
I feel like I'm actively working on the active listening.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
I do mostly active and deep.
Active indeed. Thank you, Christina. Yes, Berlin.
Yes, I feel like I'm active and deep. I like to, I've always been a great listener. I feel like to understand and have empathy for the other person's what they're going through.
Great. So now that you know these 5 different levels of listening, most of you will be able to identify where your levels are at, right? Yes, I see in the comments, someone said I fluctuate between active and deep, 4 and 5, 4 and 5. So that's amazing. Most of you, yes, Melissa, I see your hand raised.
Oh, I was trying to unraise it. I was going, I was going to say, and really the answer kind of got the question got answered. I didn't know if you could go kind of in between, because I could do deep and I could do active. And I didn't know if like that's okay to be going, from one level to another. Does it just depend on the person that you're talking to?
It definitely depends on who your client is, because you have to understand that some people are very serious about their time and they just want to get right into the deep listening of it. They don't want the small talk. But it also, like you said, correctly, it depends on your client. Mostly the active part is done before your coaching sessions. And when you're mostly in your coaching sessions, it would be more deep. Carol, would you like to add anything to that?
My piece that I would add is tie in what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, using the empowering questions as you listen to everything that Yogesh is teaching today, because they really fit hand in hand. And yes, you can go back and forth. And I think it's really important that you get to know the personality of your client. I totally agree with you, Yogesh. I have some that are like this, and others, they got to talk a little bit before we get started. So you go with the flow.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you for adding that in. And thank you, Melissa, for asking that. Okay,
Yogesh,
I'm going to
I'd
share.
like to add something to that.
Sure.
It's taking it back to the clear model of coaching and that intention at the beginning of each session, because through asking our clients, what they hope to accomplish in that session, I think can tell us a lot of how we need to be listening and how we need to be communicating. Because Carol's right, sometimes I'm one that just sometimes wants to go, but there's other times, depending on where I'm at in my life, I may want to be, go slow, listen, have more interaction. So I think it's important for us to establish that intention right at the beginning.
Thank you. Thank you, Gabby, for adding that in. So I'm just going to share my screen again with you guys. So however much the coaches want to deeply listen, there are a range of barriers that can prevent or hinder this from happening, that the coach needs to be aware of and potentially control where appropriate. So here are some of the barriers that we can have while listening to our clients. The first is rapid thought. So we can understand speech rates up to 800 words per minute. But the average person can only speak at up to 150 words per minute. So our minds fill the gaps in. So that's one barrier you could have. Another is overload. So what do I mean by overload? Overload of content or message, right? Sometimes a client just vomits everything on us and it becomes overload for us, and that could be a barrier for us. The third is bored. So what do I mean by bored? Means, you're feeling lazy. Some call it pseudo listening, and it's something that's happened to me too. Like I've had a client, a public speaking student with me for the last 1 year. And there are times where, I suddenly get bored of listening because I've been listening to him for 1 year. It becomes a barrier. And then I ask him to pause and just, start all over again, because I kind of had that barrier show up for me. The other is cultural barriers. So cultural barriers could be personal or corporate. So one cultural barrier could be like, if someone is talking about maybe religion and I'm not being able to relate to it, or they're from a different part of the world where things are different and I just can't relate to it. And maybe they're talking about something in the corporate world and I don't know anything about the corporate world. So those could be a barrier as well. Then there's personal insecurities. That's could be one of the barriers. Distractions. So distractions could be your physical environment. That could be a distraction for you, especially now during the pandemic. We're at home, people walking in and out of our rooms. The other one is defensive. What is defensive? Basically, while you're listening to the speaker, you're mentally challenging or disagreeing with the speaker, but you're not saying anything to them. So that could be one of the barriers. Another is assumptions. You're making assumptions while listening to your client. Another is internal. We have internal dialogue and mental distractions within ourselves. And finally, we have selective. So selective is basically you are only picking out the parts which are interesting you. So these are some of the barriers that a coach can face while listening. And which one and how much of these impact you depends very much on the individual coach. Most of these barriers are coach-centric, and this is directly or indirectly caused or influenced by you. So I'm just gonna stop sharing here for a minute, and I just wanna ask anyone here, what are some of the barriers you think you have that might affect you listening as a coach? Anyone?
Lacey has her hand up, and Belen.
Out of all of those, I picked my top 3, and rapid thoughts, distractions, and internal for me is definitely where I have the most issues.
Awesome. At least the good thing is you're able to identify them. So the first thing we always have to do is identify what the barriers are before we can know what we need to work on and improve on. So thank you, Lacey, for that. Yes, Belen.
Yes, I think that I'm ready to listen and I'm doing well, but all of a sudden I find myself being distracted with my own internal dialogue. So I've got to be aware, because I can get so involved in what I'm thinking internally that I'm forgetting like a whole sentence or two that they're still talking. I have to focus back to what they're saying. And so I think I need to watch out for that.
Awesome. Awesome. Like I said, it's great that you can identify the barriers that you have. Yes, Marie.
I tend to get bored. I have this mind that just keeps going sometimes. So I get bored a lot of times when I'm trying to listen. And I think that I wasn't always like this, but it happened after I had left brain injury that I need people to slow down, because it takes time for it to get through all of the cycles. I have to I write while I listen so that I can absorb it and then go back to what was said to me. And that's one thing. It's I get bored and I have rapid thought.
Thank you for mentioning that, which takes me to the next part, is how to improve a coach's listening skills. And I'm going to share once again with you guys. Just give me a second here. Can everyone see my screen? Just give me a thumbs up. Awesome. So here's a couple of ways to improve our listening skills as coaches. Now, as I stated at the start, to become an effective listener requires practice and developing an awareness for what is happening inside of you when you are listening to others. So the first way to improve your listening skills is to prepare. Prepare beforehand. Get ready for your coaching or mentoring. Set time aside before the meeting to prepare for it and clear your mind in readiness. Now, I know some of you are very busy coaches and you have clients back to back and you don't get that, time to have a break. But it is very important to prepare beforehand and give yourselves that time in preparing for your next client. Otherwise, it could, like I mentioned before, if you're listening carefully, you will be tired at the end of the session because you've been putting a lot of effort. and, focusing on listening to your client. And one way I usually do in my group classes to clear not my mind, but my students' minds, is I always tell them to, before they learn from me, is to, whatever's going on in their head is just spit it out. And that's a technique I learned 6 years ago. It's a technique that even Francisca knows. We call it clearing. And we usually do it with partners. And I ask my students to do that. I mean, I tell them, oh, whatever's in your head, I have too much homework, my mom forced me to join this class, whatever it is, just spit it all out so that you're clear and you're present in the moment to learn. So that's one way of improving your listening skills as a coach. The second is tune in. What do I mean by tune in? Tune in for the key word and phrases. Don't try to pick up everything. Because if we try to pick up everything, it's gonna be difficult for us to really listen in deeply. Because we're trying to just, gather in so much information at all time. I've tried that before when I used to coach my students, but I realized it's too much in one go. I go for the more important keywords and phrases. The third one is to understand what internal dialogue is occurring within you. And at that moment, are there any triggers or themes? And I noticed this used to happen to me a lot when I started my coaching practice in the beginning. I used to get triggers at some point, and I didn't understand why that was happening. And neither did I try to explore it. But later on, when I explored it, I realized I needed to, there were some areas that I needed to heal in that were triggering me. So you have to ask yourself, what is that internal dialogue that is happening inside of you? You have to understand that. The fourth one is good notes. What is good notes? So we have to learn to create good notes, not volume. Many of us try to note down everything, but instead we should note down what is meaningful, what we understand. So that's what I mean by good notes. And that also kind of also goes along with, just focus on the key phrases and words. The fifth is comeback. So what do I mean by comeback? You don't have to respond to the client straight away. Capture the essence of what the client is saying and come back to it when it is appropriate. Many a times we want to immediately respond to our clients, but sometimes it's better to just pause and wait. Don't respond every time immediately. Number 6 is resist. So there are many times we have mental distractions. And when you notice that you're having a mental distraction, when you feel it, your listening is going away, bring it back, get grounded. And if that means you need to pause or tell the client to pause, then do so. Many a times I've had this situation where I've just, had something else disturbing me. Maybe it was someone calling me or messaging me something urgently, and I'm not picking up the calls, and it just, distracts you. So what I do is I ask my student to pause, I turn off my phone, and I get back into it. Number 7 is listen. So what do I mean by listen? Is listen to your client before you speak. Like, don't judge them. Do not interrupt them. And some coaches, they tend to even argue, but just listen. Like you saw Stephen Covey's quote earlier, most of us listen intending to reply, not intending to understand. So that's what listening means. And finally, nonverbal, which is the most important one. Be aware of nonverbal cues and clues, their facial expressions, their tone, their pitch, their body language, their movement. If you find that their words are completely different from their nonverbal cues, then listen to their nonverbal cues. It's like saying, I say I'm happy, and at the same time, I'm not even smiling. That tells you something about your client. Or, if your client is saying I'm sad, but at the same time, their facial expression doesn't really show that they're really sad. So you have to look in for those nonverbal cues. And I'm just going to quickly stop sharing here. And I just want to ask anyone, which of the tools that help coaches improve their listening skills do you think apply to you the most? Yes, Yidalmis.
Hi everyone, Idalmis here. So for me, when you started saying prepare, I think that's the key. That's the first thing that I do. My clients, I have it in notebooks. So this is my clients. And what I do is like the night before, I go to the clients that I'm going to have next day, see what was my last communication with them about, follow up on that. And then I love when you say good notes, because that's what I put in my notebooks, those good notes that make me feel closer to my client and then address whatever is happening in their life. And listening, for sure, that's how I start. I start my coaching sessions like, let's talk about you. How was your week? What happened since we talked and today? And then we address, whatever is happening in their life first. After we start working in whatever, have been my structure for that client specifically. So I see all those different ways to improve listening. And I think that for me, preparation, good notes, listen and understanding, put your shoes on that, that moment that the person explaining something to you, how they feel and how you can support and give the right words, because words are power. You say it.
Thank you, Lidalmis. Stephanie, you had your hand up.
Hey, yes. So I was going to mention the same thing when it comes to, I don't personally have clients, but I always try to prepare. Let's talk about distractions. Aspen, I'm talking right now. Aspen, I'm talking. Sorry, she's home from school today.
It's okay.
So anyways, so we're talking about listening. So I always like to prepare before I have a conversation with any client at work. I always have the notes. Aspen, stop it. Currently I use Salesforce at work because I don't have any clients, but before I normally reach out to any client, I always touch point. Where do we leave off so I can bring that in? And I think details are the best, especially if you remember things like, their dog's name or the name of their children. And it just brings that connection so much closer. So I always try to leave a piece of that in my conversations with clients. And I always like to recap too personally, just to show that I understand. And that way, if there is anything that I'm not clear on, it's addressed at that point.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us know, Stephanie. Marie.
I'm a very big preparer. I like preparing in advance. I realize that I actually coach every day, and tuning in is really important to me. And taking the listening and and understanding them and taking the little things that they say and little phrases so that I can then react upon them as I go into the coaching session. And I'm very much a note taker, and I take, I think note taking is key to take like bullet points, just not like writing whole full sentences, but just small bullet points along the way to know, so you can go back to them as you coach.
Thank you, Marie, for sharing that. And Erin.
I'm going to be vulnerable and transparent here. One of those barriers, believe it or not, for me has been non-verbal. There are times where, I mean, I'm listening, the brain's there, and I'm yawning. Like physically, my verbal body, my non-verbal body is saying, oh my gosh, I'm so tired, which can give the impression that I am not fully present. And while it's bothered me seeing it this way, yeah, Erin needs to come up with a solution for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Erin.
Okay, I would like to add something to what Erin just said right now. And and some of you have given me grace lately, but there are times when we're just not up to our 100%. Something's going on in our lives. And when that's the case with me, I call my clients and I reschedule, so that I can be fully present, because they're paying good money. They need to have my full 100% attention. And I think that the listening improves when we really come from a place of compassion, when we're really listening with empathy, which is, what we had last time as well. And Grace went into this as well. So just being fully present when we're not feeling good, it's best to cancel, in my opinion. And people will give you grace, and then you can give them your full 100%.
Thank you, Gabby, for sharing that. And I agree with you on that one as well. There are days when I know I'm not mentally there, and I just tell my students, can we reschedule? Because I know I'm not going to be fully present, and I don't want to really go rush them through the class, or, not be present with them and focused. So I just, reschedule with them. So thank you, Gabby, for sharing that. Which takes me to the next part of the presentation. Let me just quickly.
Yogesh, I think Carol was unmuted. She wanted to say something. Carol, did you want to add something to that?
Yes, I did. For me, part of the preparation is I have my clients fill out a prep form. They send it to me 24 hours in advance. It's simple, but we don't waste any time in stories. I know exactly the 3 things that they want to, that they've celebrated, and the results that they got from that, what they accomplished from the last sessions that they planned to, what they didn't accomplish, what their biggest challenges are. And it specifically says, the last question is, what do you want to get out of this coaching session? What is the focus that you want? And so we know going in right from the very start, that could be helpful for a lot of people.
Thank you, Carol. Back to you, Yogesh.
Thank you, Carol, for that. And I'm just going to share my screen here again. And can everyone see my screen? Thank you, Carol, for that. So I'm just going to get into the tools that aid us in listening. The first is silence. Now, however strange it may seem, the use of silence is a powerful tool for the coach. No one likes silence, and the temptation is to fill the silence. The coach and mentor can learn to let the learner step forward and fill the gap, or the coach exploring with the learner the reasons for their silence. The second one is reflection. Sorry, just a sec. Can you guys hear me? It says my internet connection's weak. Thanks, Carol. Oh, there it goes again. Yeah, so like I was saying, reflection. When a learner uses keywords or phrases or repetition of these, they do so often for a subconscious reason. The coach can identify these and simply repeat them to the learner. This tells the learner that you are both listening and have recognized that what they have said is important to them. Summarizing. What is summarizing? Summarizing is replaying to the learner what they shared with the coach or mentor, and using their words and language to demonstrate progress in the discussion. Something that someone mentioned earlier, they do. I think it was Idalmis who said she summarizes with her clients what they spoke about. Clarifying. So clarifying is getting the learner to help you and them by demonstrating their awareness, by gaining examples or exploration of what they have shared. And this is done by asking the right questions. As Carol mentioned before, asking right questions to clarify, which demonstrates awareness, and then giving the examples. And body language. So body language is being able to recognize the body language they're using and mirroring this back to them. This demonstrates empathy and presence without expressing it verbally. And there's so many ways to do that, right? When you are listening into your client by just nodding your head or looking into their eyes, you know, makes a huge difference in the way they are being heard. And finally, paraphrasing. Now we've heard paraphrasing in many times in coaching. There is a little concern about paraphrasing is how you use the words. Sometimes what happens as coaches is we tend to use our own words while paraphrasing. So we have to be a little careful about that. And instead, we need to make sure we use the words and sentences that the client has said to us and not our own. So that's something we have to be very careful of. Another term for that is clean language. But I use paraphrasing because it's more common. And these are some of the tools used to aid in listening. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now. And I want to quickly ask anyone, out of the tools that aid in listening and in relationships, which one are you already using? Lacey said reflection. Anyone else? Silence, Belen, thank you. Aaron, clarifying body language. Stephanie, clarifying. Clarifying, summarizing. Thank you. Thank you guys for putting it in the chat. Now, another consideration when coaching is for the coach to coach the person and not the issue. Many coaches will ask their questions and try to solve the issue. Coaching is about helping the learner to identify their own ways forward, their options and approaches to resolving their situation. So coaches need to tune into what the learner is saying about behaviors, language, relationship, confidence, and competence. And developing your coaching skills, you need to focus on your conversations in meetings. What happens when you try to listen? What are you thinking at the same time? What thoughts creep in when you are listening? Consider how you can focus when you listen, pushing out every distracting thought you have. And once you develop an approach which best suits you, you just have to practice that approach. And try use some of the tools to aid in listening and see what happens. You know, ask your clients if they felt that they were listened to more carefully. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to watch that speech a second time. We're going to watch that speech a second time, but this time I want you to listen for the trigger question that the speaker asked. I want you to listen in to some of the health related issues or world related issues he was talking about, and anything else on a deeper listening level that shows up for you, maybe a trigger or any barriers that showed up for you when you first saw the speaker.
For me, the first time I was going to respond that I heard is that he captivated me at the beginning because I knew that the statistics he was giving were incorrect. And I was like, that's not true. So I had to listen about the health and stuff.
Okay, if you noticed when he's talking to his friend, does anyone remember the name of the friend?
It was Nasser or something like that?
Yes, Carol, correct. It was Nasser. He asked him, why are you throwing your life away? That's a trigger question. So that's why I said, listen in for the trigger question. Now, obviously, Mohammed Khatani is a speaker. He's not a coach. Had he been a coach, he would have asked a different question. But right in the beginning, if you notice the nonverbal cue when he enters and he takes out that cigarette, right? And he looks at everyone with his eyes, it's so powerful. And the reason I asked you guys to watch it a second time was because back in 2015, when he became world champion, I was asked to evaluate his speech. And I did a 45-minute to 1 hour evaluation on the speech. Did anyone pick up on the health issues he mentioned or the world issues he mentioned?
Diabetes, cancer, global warming.
Yeah, exactly. Many people who were watching his speech didn't even pick up on that. And while I was mentioning it to them, they were like surprised that he spoke about drinking as well. And one of the most interesting things was when I saw his speech so deeply, what I realized was when he was saying that nobody likes to be intimidated. And I actually asked Mohammed Khatani this. I met Mohammed Khatani back in Macau when I was competing for the evaluation contest. I said, Mohammed, when you said this, that nobody likes to be intimidated, are you kind of saying that no country likes to be intimidated by another country? And he's like, that's exactly what I was trying to say. And if you listen at a very, very deep level, you will understand sometimes what the messages these world champion speakers do. Because I was totally into that speech. And I can go on and on to talk about what else did we pick up on. But, I'll send a link of that speech. Watch it again and again. And every time you will realize that you pick up on something else. Like my favorite world champion speaker, I could literally mimic him doing the speech. But recently when I was listening to it, I'm like, oh my God, I picked up on something 6 years later that I didn't in all these years. So you'd be surprised where we are when it comes to our listening skills. Great. So let's hear the ahas from the different groups. Let's start with Carol's group.
I had Aaron and I had Marie. Which one of you would like to let them know your biggest aha from today? Or both of you can give one.
Okay. Biggest aha for me in doing the coaching was becoming aware of the fact that I was not asking enough open-ended questions. I was giving too many yes, no, this, that, and that I can do more open-ended questions to really assist the person. So that was a nice aha. Thank you very much.
Marie?
For my aha, I guess because we were with the queen of reframe, but my biggest aha was that I need to practice more on my empowering questions so that I can help to bring a client through what I need to by getting more in depth with empowering questions. I need to work on it more.
I'm going to encourage you to take that word need out of there. Say, I get to.
I get to work on it more.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Any other group? Francisca's group?
In my group, I had Jackie, Belen, and Katie. So ladies, who would like to share?
I will. I learned that I get to practice more of my questions. I get to learn how to listen a little slower and talk a little slower, so that way I can get those questions that I need to get out rather than jumping too fast, trying to get to the conclusion. I need to really get into the details of what my clients need and ask more questions and just break it all open.
Thank you, Berlin. Who else was in your group? Katie and Jackie. Jackie, go ahead.
I'm trying to do the I have a hard time. I just realized I have a hard time listening, especially with I guess with I'm not a native English speaker, and I'm trying to summarize what Katie is trying to do and to focus on, and we are going to redo that on our triad this week. So I'm working on that with deep listening skills.
Thank you for mentioning that, Jackie. Katie?
I have a thing with listening. The Stephen Covey quotes very apt to me, to not listen to try and jump in and talk, listen. And so that I could listen, that how the coach and the person being coached, were they communicating? Were they hearing each other? Were they on the same page? That was very empowering. I appreciate that, because I really had to dig in and listen to the words, see the cues. I very much enjoyed that. That was very helpful.
Thank you, Katie. Which groups are left? I'm trying to think. My group?
My group.
Anyone? Okay, Grace, your group goes first.
Okay, so I would like Nicoletta to say something. Nicoletta.
So my has come from Grace's advice, let's say, or and she was so on point, because I was coaching Christina and I kind of knew that my emotional intelligence and my empathy are pretty high naturally, and Grace has pointed out that, and that my listening skills is pretty good, but I need to, or I get to practice on my empowering questions, and to be able to help the client and not necessarily to advise or project my own beliefs into the client's needs. That was my ahas, and for that I have to thank Grace.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and Lacey.
Today, my aha moment with the coaching was, there was, first of all, everybody in my group, I think, is such an empathetic listener. Even if it's not shown at that time, I think that everybody, they just do such a good job. And with Grace this week, and thank you, Grace, for being so awesome. I learned from you that, just like Nico said, just not to project your own things when you're talking, to just let the person listen, or just listen for the person, let the person talk, let the person sorry, I'm sure you could hear my child screaming outside. Let the person talk and let them just pour their heart out to you, and you can pause and just soak that in, and then take a minute to think about something empowering to say to lift their spirit. Or it might not even be empowering. It could just, they need to hear I love you, or they need to hear something that makes their heart feel better. So today I learned a little bit about that, and it all tied into our session.
Thank you, Lacey, for sharing that. I mentioned earlier also, right? You don't have to immediately respond. You can pause and come back to it when it's appropriate So thank you for applying that. Okay, is that all from your group, Grace? Just two of them?
If we have more time, I mean, there's Hilda Mills and Light Worker. So, I mean, they can say something if they want to, if we have the time, that is.
Sure. We do have the time.
Of course. For me, well, this is my first time with this group because I changed. My group was divided. So, but I think that is what is important is like how you get along with others, and first of all, understanding where we are as a group. And I think that was amazing because everybody have different ways to coach, right? We are some of you are like starting, and other ones, depend on where you are right now. But what is important is like we are learning skills that probably we are not using yet, or that we are using and we want to enhance. I think that moment that we were working, I was a coach when we started the session, and I was coaching Lacey. So in this aspect, it's good to be more into listening. That's just our class today, right? So more into the listening, and I appreciate that so much from both sides, because I also I have words to say, but I think the most important is the coachee, because as a coach, you have to be, more into that person. So have a kind of a process of, introduction. How are you? How do you feel? What happened last week? The follow up. Go straight to the coaching session. Then, close with your 1 to 10. How do you feel today? Do you accomplish what you were, expecting? So that process, and then listening to the whole process as well. So that was great. I think that it's important for us to practice and be sure that we are closer to our goals. So thank you.
Thank you, Dalmis. Christina?
I was listening and coached today, but I really enjoyed all of the listening skills. It was just a very good session. I really get a lot out of the different types of listening and the feedback. It's really interesting to know different ways of empowering questions and ways to know how to approach things in further. I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Christina. And let's have Damaris and the rest from my group before everyone drops off.
Yes, thank you, Yogesh. As I mentioned in our small group, that for me, the challenge was to look at the body language of the coachee or my client, and to figure out which empowering questions to do in order to guide her into what she wanted really to be working on today. Because sometimes you have to listen behind what the person is saying, because I could figure out from her body language that she had something inside within her that she needed to work on, and she wanted to scream it out, but she was saying that she had everything under control and everything. So it's a matter of just keep that deep listening and connecting with and looking at very closely at the body language, so you may catch up those things. And the challenge is to how to translate that into empowering questions, so you may guide that client into what they really want to work on. So thank you.
Thank you, Damaris. And as we discussed, if you get into your triads and practice, because you get more time to actually do that. Here on the live sessions, it's always rushed. So you'll have more time to actually practice those listening and asking questions skills that you are practicing here. Melissa.
I think it was interesting because we had two different tones of coaching. And I'm the kind of person, like I want to, like it was said earlier, I want to go in there and make sure I do everything I was told to do, and I can say I achieved it, right? But I had to stop. I really had to get me out of the way. I had to really do everything I could to put myself in the situation of the person who I was coaching, and and maybe this is egotistical, somebody tell me, but I was trying to think, if I were in that situation, what would I need? What would I want? And how can I, be able to relate to her that I care and that I'm sorry for what's happening. So for me, it was like, I had to slow down. I had to think. it had to be different. And I had to kind of go with the flow of where she was at and what she needed. It couldn't be just my agenda in getting certain things done. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and you did very well. Like I said in the feedback, that you heard her, you told her you were sorry, and then you also asked her what would she need at this point. So I think you did pretty well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. And finally, Maurice.
Yeah, because we're four in the group, I always don't have enough time to do the coaching, but mostly the observation for the group. So I can see that it takes more time to really improve on our coaching skills if we have more time with our triads to improve on our skills. And I was just able to pick up for myself that I need to work on the different levels of listening, that I should be more into the active and deep listening skill. So it will take more practice with that. I will try to work with my triad in our own time. So I was also able to be aware of the barriers in listening with what we did today on my own. Like the overload because of the time constraints. It seems that my mind cannot process that much, and with all the other distractions in my thoughts. So it's more on doing more practice to improve in our coaching and listening skills.
Thank you, Maurice. Yes, that is the one thing that Gabby also mentioned today is, get in your triad groups and practice the skills and the tools that you're learning over here, because that's what's going to make you better coaches by practicing more and getting feedback from each other and observing, your listening and communication skills. Gabby had to drop off early today. She had an emergency regarding Eliud. So a quick request, everyone pray for his well-being. And homework is to get in your triads and practice your listening and communication skills. Anything you want to add to that, Carol?
No, I'm good. I thought it was a good day today.
Thank you, Carol. And thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week in your final session. Bye-bye.